YouTube, I am here. Are you with me? I noticed that my light don't look as good as I want it to look. I'm gonna try to take a moment and give it a little more light. You see, I changed my environment. See, I changed my environment for Transformation Tuesday. We are transforming some things, and that's what happens. You start out one way, you hear something, and you move a little bit different. So, thank you for joining me. I'm just trying to adjust my light because you see, I've changed my environment. Get a little bit more light, a little bit more light. See what this looks like. Welcome to Transformation Tuesday. I'm gonna be better, y'all. I promise I will. I think that we're welcome to Transformation Tuesday. I'm your host, Pamela Denise, and today we're talking about do something. Because a lot of people want something different, but won't do nothing different. So we're gonna talk about that today. I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, but I do recognize that we can live a lifetime of religion or a lifetime of ambiguity and have no idea what it is that we really want out of life because what we're doing is following the construct that we have been taught. So I'm gonna take a couple deep breaths. I'm gonna adjust this light and we're gonna get into it. She doing it. Doing something. She doing something. Okay, thank you for the ability to do something. I understand that my life is my responsibility. And if I'm going to have the things that he created me to have, I have to do something. So that's what this Transformation Tuesday is about. Do something. I didn't send out emails this week, primarily because I had misplaced my laptop. And this is almost what prompted this do something for me today, because I was at an event. I had a photo shoot Friday, this past Friday. Today is Tuesday. I had a photo shoot this past Friday, and I had a lot of gear with me and props, and I had my laptop with me. And when I got almost home after spending an entire day downtown, I got almost home. I realized that I thought about it. Like the Holy Spirit reminded me, like, did you get your laptop? I thought about the weight of the bag that I had, and I'm like, I don't think I got my laptop. I'm pretty sure I don't have my laptop. So when I got home and I'm unpacking everything, sure enough, I did not have my laptop. My laptop is my I want to say it's my life source, but God is my life source, right? But everything that I do, because I'm a content creator and I'm an influencer, is based on not just my phone, but it's based on my laptop. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. Immediately, fear tried to grip me. Like it tried to grip me because it's all the way downtown. I had left about 3 hours, 2.5 hours before the space closed. And people just moving around in there. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I had an opportunity to do something. And that something was take a breath and say, God, cover it. God, cover it. Because there was nothing I could do at that moment. The space was closed. In worst case scenario, I could pick it up tomorrow if it's still there. And I called my niece who works at the event space, and I told her, she gave me the number so that I could do something, so that I can call the overnight staff, the self-help, the engineering staff who works overnight. So I called them. I'm gonna do something, right? I'm gonna do my diligence. I ain't gonna just be in faith time. Oh God, it's okay, you got it. But I know you got it, because in faith, I stood firm and said, God, cover it. I know you ain't gonna have me out here like this. You know I need my laptop. Now, I could have been more careful, right? Because sometimes we do things, we move too fast, and then we want God to fix our mistakes. Well, that was kind of the case with me. I was moving too fast, and I did want God to fix my mistake. But at the same time, if it's a lesson in it, I'm gonna get the lesson. So I did get the lesson. I'll give you out in a minute. So I called the overnight staff, the maintenance, the 24-hour people. No one's in the building though. maybe security, and they said they do an order ticket. They call me in the morning, and all the stuff. I can come back down there, check and see if it's there. Someone will probably be able to let me in remotely, and I'll be able to get in. But my truth, I honor the Sabbath. So when the sun begins to set Friday night, I ain't doing no work. I ain't trying to chase behind no laptop, even though I desperately needed it. I ain't chasing behind no laptop. I ain't doing no work. I don't want to call nobody. I don't want to make no runs over here. I have Sacred Saturday that I do every Saturday from 8 to about 8:30 at the Soul Massage and Spa in Bronzeville. So that's the only form of work that I'm doing, and that's not work. That's serving unto the Lord, right? So I know I had Sacred Saturdays, and I thought about the fact that after Sacred Saturdays, I can go down there and pick it up. But Sacred Saturdays took a whole different turn this week. Like, people were getting delivered, people were getting free. They were sharing things that they had never shared before. Like, the Spirit of God was in the room. It was sacred. So I have enough faith to believe that if I'm here doing your work, Lord, you got that laptop. So I didn't think about it. And every time, like Saturday night is when I would normally do my emails and get ready to set up for the following week, send out emails and stuff like that. And I didn't have my laptop, so I couldn't do it. I ended up going to the spa. I went to King Spa. Because my birthday was Sunday, I went to King Spa. It's what I do every month anyway. So I went, and I would normally take my laptop, but I didn't have it. I'm like, well, it's my birthday anyway, so I shouldn't be working, but when you got work to do, you got work to do. Long and short, it wasn't until Monday. Sunday came. It was a Sunday. It was my birthday. I went to service. I went to worship. I worship God fully because I know that some things are shifting in my life. And I believe that we be given opportunities to make a decision, to do something, even if to do something ain't nothing but, which is huge, but say, God, I trust you, right? But I know that you can't trust somebody that you don't know. So I know you can't trust somebody that you don't know. That's why it's important that you know them. But we have an opportunity. Like, we have thousands. We don't think about them. We think about the basic decisions that we have to make every day. But we have thousands of decisions that we make every day. A lot of them are just subconsciously. Like we're moving on autopilot. We're like robots throughout the day. And fear tried to grip me at least, I ain't gonna lie, 10 times in the weekend. Fear tried to grip me, and it was like, what you gonna do if you don't have your laptop? And then I started trying to come up with a plan B. Okay, I can go get a laptop from here. Just thinking about how am I gonna get my data? What do I really need this on? I'm thinking those things, and every time I think it, I be like, I breathe and release it and say, there is no fear in love. God loves me. I'm his and he is mine. And I'm not going to worry about what I cannot control. That's a lot of times where the do something begins, because we try to take things into our own hand. And God be like, if you just tag me in, call on me, ask me, and I'll show you great and mighty things that you know it's not. But we are so programmed to the hustle and the grind and making everything work ourselves. We can't. We can do a lot of things, but if we are not seeking the will and the face and the purpose that God created us for, what are we really doing? I say it all the time. What are we really doing if we're not seeking the will and the face and the purpose that God created us for? We're doing something. And I encourage you, do something. But the first thing that I encourage you to do is seek God, because we spin our wheels a lot. Like, my truth is, when I turned 50 and I was beginning anew, I said that I knew that my life was my responsibility. I knew that there was greatness in me. I knew it from the time I was a little girl. Like, I knew I was a little special. And that can be interpreted a couple different ways. But I knew I was a little special. And when I had the opportunity in my 50s to begin anew, if you come here and do me a favor and say peace through a heart, I'd appreciate it. I like to interact with you, if at all possible. But I knew that my life is my responsibility, and here I am with a chance to start over again completely. So I said, I'm not gonna hit and miss anymore, because I had done some great things in my life. I had traveled the world, been to some amazing places. I had wrote a book. I had wrote 2 books actually, because my second book I wrote in 2019. My first one I wrote in 2015. But I wrote 2 books. I had like bought property, I had flipped property, I had been a landlord, I traveled to some amazing places. South side, I'm a young girl from the south side of Chicago. Like, my brother gave me a lot of tools and insight into the real estate business, but I didn't have any structure in terms of how I was going to move in my life. I became self-employed, and I continued to do something to make things shake for me, right? Pam, what you up to? Shaking some trees. So I'm always trying to make something shake. And I had the ability. My father was a hustler from the west side of Chicago, and I get it naturally. Like, over, under, around, and through, I'm going to get to it. But when I realized that I felt like I was going in circles. It was a different relationship. It was the same relationship, almost different person, same amount of money, experiences, just different people. I was recycling my life, and it was a decent life. Like, that's the truth. But I knew there was more. I just didn't know how to get to it. So the first do something that I did was I showed up in a space to God, because with God, I showed up like literally, like, y'all know I created a system called Start With Water to help you create space and stillness for your creative for 5 minutes a day. I didn't know how to do that. Like, I was in church all the time. I was in church Sundays all day. I was in church Wednesday. I was in church Friday. Like, Saturday. Like, I was in church. I went to ministry school. I took ministry classes because I was seeking. I really, 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 really wanted to know God. And I felt that the works that I was doing was sufficient. Like, how can I not be close to God if I'm showing up doing all these things? If I'm in church from Sunday school, like morning service, worship, leave, go home, and come back to night service. And then we had Wednesday service, Bible study, and I'm there all the time. And didn't miss a day, because this was my life. And then Friday we had evangelical service, and I'm there, right? And I'm in my 20s, 30s, like this is my life. How can I not be close to God? But when I got home, I felt a sense of righteousness because of the acts that I was doing. I felt that I was righteous. Like, truthfully, I felt I was a little better than some people. I felt, because, well, you need to, like you're not going to church, or you're not saved, or you're not woo out the bam. I was like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Like, literally, I was one of the religious rulers. I was ruling over people and didn't have no throne or no judgment or anything, right? But I was, because that's what the church teaches you to do. Like you're a little bit better than people because you're doing all these things. I ain't mean for that to come out, but we out here now. But we out here now. But I knew when I got to be 50 years old and I'd done all those things, I put myself on this pedestal because of the relationship that I thought I had with God, which is really religious acts, right? And because I kept going through the same thing, I ended up saying, I showed up to God after serving him for over 20 years. I showed up one day, I had my Bible, because I had a Bible, a nice Bible too. I turned to Matthew 6:33 and I said, your word says, right here, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things, meaning all the things that our heart desires, will be added unto us. And I didn't really know what to desire except for a decent relationship. Marriage was always a goal, because that's what I've been programmed to. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that marriage is beautiful, and I will have a beautiful marriage one day. I'm going to speak that again. I will have a beautiful marriage one day because I understand it differently now. I understand the purpose of marriage. There's a purpose for everything that we do. And if we don't understand God, then what are we doing? If we don't understand our purpose or God's will for our life, what are we doing? I was talking to a sister, my sister. I don't say a sister of mine. She's my sister. I was talking to her this past weekend. We spent the weekend together, and we were talking about purpose, the purpose of things. And I didn't remember who said it, but she reminded me that it was Dr. Miles Monroe, and he said that if purpose is unknown, then abuse is inevitable. If you don't understand the purpose of something, then abuse is abnormal use. It is inevitable. If you don't understand that the purpose of a car is to get you from point A to point B, then sometimes because it's a fancy car, we rev it up. And some cars are built for that. But if you don't understand the purpose of a relationship, I'm not about to dance around this thing. If you don't understand the purpose of a relationship, men and women are to come together, not just, the Bible says that God blessed them and he said, be fruitful and multiply. And a lot of times we think that that's just having children. And that is how we replenish the earth. The earth is plenty replenished. I'm not saying that we don't have to have children anymore. By all means, there are going to be more and more and more babies. Babies are blessings from the Lord. But I am saying that there is being fruitful and multiplying is also multiplying the gifts that we have. There is, Adam had an assignment, man has an assignment, and woman has an assignment. We are to be their helpmeet, right? But we also have gifts and they are to be our protectors. There is a balance in this male-female dynamic that this society has forgotten. And I don't know how I got here because I'm talking about do something. Well, listen, this is how I got here because I believe, and I know that to be true, that there is a breach, that there is a disunity, that there is abuse, abnormal use of relationships in this society. And because there is such a wide and broad disconnect, and I knew it, and on my podcast, the Scales of Life podcast, I had a guest and he thanked me. And it was interesting because it was the only male guest that I had on there. I have conversations with women all the time because I am a woman's woman. I am a culture of queens. I help women clarify their identity. I help them know who they are because I know that if we knew who we were, we would move differently. If we really knew that we were created in the image and likeness of God, we would move differently. If we really believed that we were formed with God's hands, that God touched us from the dust of the ground, and that this is his breath that we have in his body, we will move differently. And so, because I know that to be true, and I have a wealth of knowledge, and I am a woman of sound wisdom, I do something. I coach. So if you didn't know I'm a coach, I am going to put that on the YouTube platform now because the season is changing and I'm out here now because this world is getting darker and darker by the day. And y'all, we need help. And I got tools, I have strategies, and they are aligned with godly principles, right? But back to the podcast. So I'm on a podcast and I'm talking to the only male that I interviewed or had a conversation with because I ain't interviewed nobody, right? I'm just doing something because I know that I told God years ago that whatever he did for me, that I was going to tell everybody. So I know that he would use that. So what I do is put myself out here on these platforms. Podcasts, it was the thing that people were doing, but I realized that I had something that was a little different to say. To me, it's a little different to say. Like a lot of people talk about God, a lot of people talk about walking in your purpose, but ain't nobody saying it like I'm saying it. Like I ain't gonna say it like nobody else said it, right? So that's why I'm doing something there. I'm talking to this young man, King is his name, on the podcast, right? How about that? Like I'm the only male that I'm interviewing on the podcast. His name is King. Go figure that. But I'm so thankful for that because as we were talking and sharing energy with one another, he was like, man, thank you for providing this space because we need this. And he brought again to my attention, because I knew it, that there was a disconnect with male and female. And well, either you get around men get around women and women get around men that's attractive, that smell good, that got some things going on, and then we don't know what to do with it, and then we end up messing it up, right? Because if purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. You got to understand the purpose for and the reason that a thing is happening and showing up in your life. And my truth, I never had this happen before, but because I had messed up so many times in the past, and in this season of my life, I wasn't playing them games. I literally asked God, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this young man? Because he's a young man. He's a man of God. And I said, what am I supposed to do? I asked God because there was a purpose for everything that happens in our life. And if we are not seeking the face of God, then we're going to keep blowing it. And I didn't want to blow it. So we talking, we in the podcast talking, and he said, thanks for creating this space because, man, it's such a divide and we need more of this. And I was like, it is true. So in God fashion, because I be seeking him about what to do and how to put my gifts out into the world more, we decided to create a space. And this month, this is the first day of the last quarter of the year. Wrapping some things up. Put a whole lot of work in this year. And it's still happening. Like things are unfolding in a major, major way. And I'm thankful for that. But we decided to put together a platform called Kingdom Conversations, Yah's Way. So we are having an event. It's going to be a couple of males, a couple of females, and we're going to be talking about relationships for the most part, from a godly aspect, from not from what you bring to the table, or she got to have this, and the third. And if he not making six figure, and if he take me out, then I'm expecting him to do all this, and we wipe the band. We ain't bringing none of that energy because we're whole. And whole is the goal. God wants us to not be independent, not feeling like we need men or women. He don't want us to be codependent, like that we need them completely, right? Because what we need completely is the creator of the universe. But he wants us to be interdependent. He wants us to move, like utilize our gifts, learn how to use our words, know who we are. First of all, if we don't know who we are, we need not be in a relationship. If you don't know that you're created in the image and likeness of God, if you don't know that you are God's chosen vessel, that the greater one resides in you in a real way, you need not be in a relationship. You need to know that first, because what happens is we become too dependent on these relationships, not understanding that they belong to God just like you belong to God. And once we learn who we are, then we can intercommingle in different relationships. So get to know who you are first. Get to know who God is first. And then get to know. And God will remind you and let you know who you are. Once you figure that out, then a relationship with someone else so that you can be fruitful and multiply. Allow their gifts to mix with your gifts. Because I'm not two better than one. I know it to be true. Now, here's my truth. Like, I am, like I said earlier, I'm a woman's woman. Love women, right? Like, I love what we're able to do, how we're able to show up in the world. I love that we're able to bring forth, like literally birth a human being out of our bodies, that a seed can be planted. Like, that is the greatest creation of all time, right? I love that for us. I love our hair textures. I love our body shapes. I love our femininity. I love when we're able to stand in our power. I love it. But I also know that I love men. I love the masculinity. I love the quietness, but I love the intellect, right? So as a woman's woman, I had, after my second marriage came to an end, and I'm moving into my purpose with God, and it's He and I, and we're getting closer, we're intimate. I've created, and a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, Tasha, she loves, like, she creates great spaces. She has such a large impact and influence and circle, a sphere of influence among women and men. But she has created a culture where women love each other, where we can travel together, and it's a beautiful thing. And she's like, create you a culture of women who will always be there for you. Because sometimes people get married and in relationships because time is ticking, right? The clock is ticking, and they don't want to grow old alone. But if you growing old with the wrong person, you ain't did nothing. So If you are not married, create a culture of women. If you're a woman, create a culture of women, that because we ride for each other. What I know about women, we ride till the wheels fall off for each other, if we love each other or if we're doing life right. And we ride till the wheels, really, we self-deprecate ourselves for men who don't even love us sometimes, who don't know how to love us and who don't love themselves. So I'm saying create a culture for yourself. So whatever your state of being is, if you're married, still have a culture of women. Don't dismiss your friends, because these are the people who are going to be there for you, right? So do something. Do something is the title of this. I'm so thankful for these platforms. The first thing I said was, because I took absolutely no notes today, because I said that because I know what it looked like to do something. So I said I'm just going to talk about doing something. Take a sip of this ginger tea. It's getting a little cool, but because it's ginger and turmeric and echinacea in there, it tastes really, really good. It tastes like life. First thing I said before we just start trying to do something, create a space for God, because if you don't know what it is that He wants you to do, then we're doing nothing. We're doing nothing. And there is purpose for our lives. There is purpose for us being here in this space, in this day, in this time. There are gifts that are inside of you. And if you create intimacy with God, He'll allow those gifts to be birthed. How do you do that? You can get started with water. You can, I'm certain the link is right here in this description. You can get started with water, because I have simplified it for you. But if you choose not to, I ain't mad at it. Find a quiet space in your home. Go to it every day. When you show up, take some breaths and say, God, I'm here. I'm here. You can do with me what you want to in this space. That's doing something. And when I tell you, you will not show up to meet God and God won't meet you there. So, you want to take a little deeper? I'm going to say it again, because I created the system for a reason. Because this is what I know. We'll start out doing something that we know we need to do. I know it to be true. Facts. You can look at the statistics. I'm not going to run them off to you because I haven't looked them up. But I've talked to enough people to know that they will start, because I just created this system last year. But I've been doing this system for years, right? I've been showing up to God. And that's how I showed up. I said, look, I'm here. I'm here. I'm going to be quiet. And you can do whatever you want to do in this space. It's literally what I did every single day. And the reason I did it is what kept me showing up. There was chaos on the inside of me. And I knew that nothing can fix the inside of me except for the greater one who was inside of me. So that's why I showed up. But then, after showing up for so long, it got good to me. Like, I realized God was literally meeting me there. So I showed up with a little more intentionality. But that's the first step. And once God shows up, because don't do nothing before you do that. When you get up in the morning, don't get on your phone. Don't check your balances. Don't do anything before you, because that is what seeking ye first the kingdom looks like. Once you do that, God will begin to tell you what it is He wants you to do, if you ask Him. Now, my truth, it took me years to ask. It took years to ask, why am I here? I just was thankful that I was learning how to see God. So I would show up every day and just see God. I spent time with Him. He would lead me a little differently. Like, from that time, He ended up having me write a book. That one, I could hear Him. I could hear Him clearly, because when I wrote that book, I couldn't hear Him hardly at all, right? I literally couldn't hear God hardly at all. But I knew that there was something in me. And out of having the exact same conversation with women, like over almost a year period, like 7, 8, 9 months, every woman that I talked to, literally, I had the exact same conversation with. And the conversation went like, talking to women, and they'd be like, I really want to take this vacation, but I need to wait until my husband finishes this, or until my children, they have this program that I'm helping them through, or until I have children. They wanted to really, really do something, but the something that they really, really want to do always got put on a back burner, not because of their own goals and aspirations, but because of someone else's. Now, don't get me wrong, when you got a family, you got to tend to your family. But if you don't tend to yourself first, you are pouring from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. And we end up in resentment, resenting people because we've given up everything that we have and haven't saved anything for ourselves. So this is a conversation that I was having with women, and the conversation was like, and I would say in every conversation, literally, but this is how God would do, because I knew I couldn't hear him. And so I would ask him, I would say, speak to me. If you don't speak to me through, if I can't hear you, speak to me through the television, speak to me through the radio, speak to me through a friend, speak to me through my pastor. This is what I will say all the time, but that is dangerous. Like, God wants to speak to you directly, but he spoke to me because I really want to hear him. He spoke to me through myself because in this conversation, literally every woman I talk to, I'll say I talk to 50 women, right, in this time frame. And every woman I talk to, but I really want to do this, and I say, if you really want to do it, you better do it for yourself. Like, this is the only life you get. This was always my response, right? This is the only life you're going to get. And you are responsible for it. So if there is something that you really, 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 really want to do, you better do it for yourself. So after about 9 months or so having the same conversation, I'm thinking, because I understand I'm a vessel, right? I understood that much. I understood that God would speak through me, but I didn't realize he would speak through me to me, right? But he did. And so what ended up happening was I ended up calling a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, Anthony Gann. He was literally my first coach. And he said, and I said, and he had written like 20 books at the time. And I'm like, I never desired to write a book, but I ended up calling him and saying, doctor, he's a doctor, Doc, I think I'm supposed to be writing a book, because I believe that I needed to get what was in me out of me. Because if I'm a vessel, this is the image that I had of me being a vessel. If there is something that's in me, I'm full, right? From my toes when I stand up. But if I'm full up to here and I'm a vessel, then nothing else can get in, right? Until I pour out what's in me. So I said, I think it's time for me to write a book, because I got this message that I can't shake. I can't shake this message. And I had to get it out of me. So I'm guessing it's a book that I'm supposed to be writing. And he said, Pam, about time. Sometimes your friends will know things about you that you don't know about yourself. Because true story, about a year before that, he wrote a book called You Too Can Write a Book. And I only bought it because he's my friend and I supported him, right? But I never read the book. But I went back and got the book when it was time for me to write the book, because he's my friend. I'm not going to just call him like, well, what's the steps, what I'm supposed to be doing. I ended up going back and getting that book and reading it. And then I said, after that, if I had questions, I would ask him, right? And so I opened up the book. And in the book, I got the book a year or two before. And in the book, it said, to Pam, we call me Pam, to Pam, I can't wait for you to release those books that are inside of you. Now, I hadn't even read it. I hadn't even read that, because I bought the book and put it up, right? But a year or so later, here I am reading it, and he had prophesied. He had said, I can't wait for you to release those books that are inside of you. And I am about to release the first one. And I wrote it. And the night I finished writing it, it was it was an easy read. I'm not going to call it short because it's very impactful. But the night I finished writing that book, I was so proud of myself, because I've been a goal setter all my adult life, and I had never set a goal to write a book before. And I wrote it, I completed it, easy read, 67 pages long. I cheated on the font. I need to fill up the spaces because I don't know how much I got to say. So I cheated on the font, but it was done. Once I had done it, within an hour, it was deleted by accident. It was deleted. And that's what took me to the feet of Jesus. That's what took me to the floor. Like I didn't know what to do with that. I over, under, around the throat. That's what I'll be saying. I'm gonna get to the things. Like I'm an overcomer. I'm more than a conqueror, right? But I didn't know what to do with that because I don't know how to do this again because I never planned on doing it in the first place. And that's when I sat on the floor and I was like, God, fix it. Set the stopwatch for 5 minutes and I was like, I'm here. You can do whatever you want to do. And from that moment on, because literally, I've said it before, but somebody watching this may have never heard me say it before. It was the hardest 5 minutes of my life. And I had done what I felt like I was supposed to do. But I had never really created a space to hear from God. And it took God about nine months or so for me to finally get this message, right? He had told me in the beginning, I'm certain that he wanted me to write a book. He had given me the message because I was the one sharing the message with the women. It was my message that I was sharing with the women. But I didn't know what to do with it. And God don't want us going in circles, having to waste 9 months before we get it. I think God is trying to tell me something. No, he want to tell you something. He wants you to be able to hear him. So that night, with that morning, when I woke up, because I cried all night, that morning when I woke up, I sat down, I sat there for 5 minutes. It was the hardest 5 minutes of my life. And I was like, this is hard, but I'm going to do it because the chaos was still raging on the inside of me. So I'm going to do it. And when I walked away from that space, I ended up telling God, I'm going to show up because I prayed all the time, but I never really created a space to hear from him. I would pray, I worship, but I never sat still so that I could hear. And that's what he wanted me to do. He's like, if you're going to be out here moving like this, you heard me finally. You wrote the book. Good job. But it took you almost a year for you to hear what was already inside of you. So he allowed the book to get deleted so I can sit at his feet and hear him. Because I've never not sat at his feet since then. I show up every day since then. But I told God as I was walking away, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But I can only do this for 5 minutes. I can only do this for 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes seemed like such a short period of time. 5 minutes, like, it's nothing. It's easy breezy. But it was hard. It was literally the hardest 5 minutes of my life, I felt like. I said, but I can only do it for 5 minutes. And I clearly heard him say, I can do in 5 minutes what you cannot in a lifetime, but you got to give me the 5 minutes. So I showed up every day since then, and the rest, we're making history. So there are a lot of things that God would have created you to do. And I know that you're probably walking in some of those things right now. I hope that you are. I hope that you're not just living the status quo. I hope that not here at Transformation Tuesday. I hope that if you are, that this is giving you some insight in order to do something different. Do something. Do something different. Don't just live the life that your parents said that you should live. Listen, unless they God-fearing people and but listen, even with that being the case, Jesus' mother didn't know. Jesus' mother didn't know what he was created to do. Me and my sister was talking about this past weekend. Like we were reading, we shared some scriptures and some Bible study time. And we talk about how on this faith walk, like you're doing things and you're always hoping. Like hope is the anchor, is the cord that anchors us to the promises of God, right? We're hoping that this thing is true. God has moved in our life and we know that he has shown up in ways. So we know that he's real. But when we step out on faith, we never really know how it's going to end up. We believe God for the promises and we know he's going to show up. We don't know how it's going to happen. So there'll be some, some waves in our soul, right? Like we got to get anchored on a promise. Excuse me. So I remember talking to her because even Mary, Jesus' mother, when his brothers and his family thought that he had lost his mind, they would be like, Mary would say, I'm gonna hold this close to my heart. Mary, the brother was like, Jesus lost his mind. And Mary was like, I'm just gonna hold it close to my heart. And there was a time when they were traveling from the feast, and Jesus had stayed behind, and they had to travel back 3 days. Mary and his father Joseph had to travel back 3 days to go get him. And he was in the temple teaching. He was teaching the leaders, and like he was astounding them. And Mary said, "Why have you done this to us?" Like she was mad, like she was chastening him. "Why have you done this to us? Like we were worried about you." And Jesus said, "Didn't you know that I should be about my Father's business?" And I said all that to say that even Mary, who had never slept with a man before, the Holy Spirit came over her, and she was impregnated with Jesus. Even she didn't know, right? And she had to hold that close to her heart, and she had to do something too. So I'm saying we don't always know. Even if your parents are God-fearing, they don't always know. She should have known. In my mind, Mary should have been like, "Listen, y'all know this God's son. Y'all know this. Y'all know he belongs to God. He gonna be different. He gonna, like, y'all remember I had never been with a man, and then I ended up having this baby. He is different. He gonna be different, right?" She should have known, but she didn't. So even if your parents were God-fearing and led you in the things of the Lord, I hope that they just led you to know him for real, how to have a relationship for real. And if that is the case, then do something. Do something with the gifts that God has given you. And if you don't know, then the first thing you need to do is create the space here. And then once you get in that space, God is going to tell you what to do. And if you don't know how to do it, get a coach. Get a coach. Coaches, a spiritual coach. Coaches will help you align. Coaches will help you. They see your blind spots. They'll help you in your mindset development. They'll help give you different skills. Until next time, y'all. That's really what I got for you. Kind of came off the dome today, but I appreciate it. I appreciate all who stopped in. I appreciate those who chatted with me. Until next time, do something. Peace.